The Pelicans suck. Willie Green is a basketball terrorist, and not the good kind like the Tyrese Halliburton Taliban. No, like the bad kind, like the Two Towers kind of one, okay? Like, he is not good. He has been very bad. He has not helped us. We have started 0-5 this season, and this is about the lowest I've ever seen the team. As a lifetime New Orleans Pelicans fan, I have seen some lows. Meaning, like, Jarrett Jack was our best player one year. Jarrett fucking Jack, in that year, was one of the lowest moments as a fan of the team, should I say. This is up there with that. This is one of the lowest points in this team's history, and it's not just due to the 0-5 start, okay? It's also due to the fact that, unlike most teams that are awful, there is zero hope for the future of this team right now. They have no picks. They have no really big room for improvement outside of Jeremiah Fears. And there's just not much to really have tons of hope for. And, like, unlike last year when the team was awful because they pretty much had zero players healthy. Like, last year they sucked because of injuries. And honestly, I gave Willie Green a pass. There was nothing he could have done. Greg Popovich wouldn't have made that team good. But this year, outside of DeJounte Murray, the Pelicans are healthy. This is very healthy for the Pelican standards for the past few years. But despite that, we are just as hopeless and miserable as we were last year. And like I said, the future situation is just as hopeless and miserable due to the genius that is Joe Dumars. Now, don't worry, we will get to this guy. He's just as much as a terrorist as Willie Green. We're going to get to him, but we're going to be focused on Willie Green, and we're going to be focusing on the Pelicans team as a whole, and then we will touch on the moves that have gotten us here. We're going to be getting to all that in this video, so please stay tuned, because I have a lot of things to say. And don't get me wrong, I'm a guy who, honestly, up until right now, has been a Willie Green defender. When he first got here, I loved what he did. He brought the culture. He brought a lot of good things. He improved the team. We're going to get into that. We're going to get to the highs and lows of his career. But he has ran his course, and I think it is time for him to go. And that kind of pains me to say, because like I said, I'm not a hater of Willie Green. He is just, I think he's going stale a little bit, and we're just going to get into all that. So how did we get here? Well, that's what I'm going to be getting to right now. So to understand the situation, we are going to be going all the way back to when Willie Green was hired in July 22nd of 2021. He was brought in to replace the dumpster fire that was Stan Van Gundy. That team was miserable to watch. He needed to be replaced, and they replaced him very quickly. And we brought in a new head coach, former player, played for the team in the past, Willie Green. And despite him being a pretty new head coach, he was able to handle adversity basically right off of the bat, because he started 4-16 in his first 20 games of his coaching career. But from there, they would go on to rally and go 34-30 for the rest of the season, and they finished with a 500 record of 36-36. And like I said, to Pelican standards, that is very good, especially when you started 4-16. There was a lot of hope. We even made it into the play-in tournament, won those games, and were able to actually make a playoff appearance in his first year. And actually in that play-in tournament, there was a viral clip of Willie Green when they were down by the Clippers, I'm pretty sure. In the fourth quarter, he said, "You gotta fight." There was a famous clip. I'm gonna put it on the screen here.
Hey, get your freaking hands up. This is what we live for. This is what we worked hard for. Okay, we ain't giving it up. You gotta freaking fight. You gotta fight.
And it blew up, and it really gave you hope, and they responded to that, and they came back and won the game. And now, then we made the playoffs, and one of the highest moments as a Pelicans fan, we were able to actually take the 1-seeded Phoenix Suns team to a 6-game series where they played very, very tough. It was very prideful to be a part of that fan base at the time. We played very good. The fans were engaged, and there was just a lot of hope. We had a lot of rookies playing. Zion didn't even play in that series, and yet we still brought him to 6 games, and there was just a lot of things to be very hopeful about for the future. little did we know is that this would be the peak of Willie Green's coaching career. But things wouldn't go downhill immediately, as they followed this season with a slightly improved record of 42-40 the very next season. But unfortunately for them, they lost to the OKC Thunder in the play-in tournament, and that was the end of their season. But I mean, overall, winning record, improved. Yeah, you didn't make the playoffs, but you did improve, okay? Like, you did have a pretty good season, so nothing to really panic or be too down about. Yes, you missed the playoffs, but it could have been much worse. And as a Pelicans fan, you take winning records when you can get them. And then you go to the next season where you improved even more and you went 49-33. You damn near won 50 games. That is very good for the New Orleans Pelicans, but unfortunately, Zion would get hurt at the worst possible moment against the Lakers in the play-in tournament in the fourth quarter of the game, which would take him out for the rest of the season. They would go on to lose that Lakers game because of his injury, but they were able to win the second play-in game, so they still made the playoffs, but they would go on to get swept by the Oklahoma City Thunder in there. Now, the Thunder went on to be very good that year, and obviously we know what happened the next year after that. They were able to win the championship the next year. So getting swept by OKC wasn't exactly a surprise, but we didn't look good at all. We looked very flat, and I think a lot of that had to do with the Zion injury, and that didn't have anything to do with Willie Green. We still were improving. We were looking like a very good team, and just a very unfortunate injury happened. Well, then last year happened, and we went 21-61, and like I said, a lot of that did not have to do with Willie Green. The 21-61 season was because DeJounte Murray got injured, Zion got injured, Trey Murphy got injured, Herb Jones got injured. Everybody got injured. Like, there was very little players on that team that stayed healthy. Even Jose Alvarado got injured. So this team just had no chance. No coach in history would have ever made this team good. But even then, like, there were still moments where, like, even when we did have Zion back for games, or when we had, like, our star players playing, they just were not bought in. Now, yes, it's understandable for them to might be fully bought in because the season was over, but still, you would like to see them at least put forth some effort, which they just did not do. And so, yes, we finished 21-61 mainly due to injuries, but the record probably shouldn't have still been that bad. Like, that was the second worst record in franchise history, and it should not have been that bad. Like, they were healthy enough to win like 28, 30 games, but they just kind of gave up. And you don't like seeing that, and it's kind of like a bad look on a coach for a team to give up on you. But you could give them a little bit of grace. Like, nobody would have been good in that situation. It was an impossible situation. So let's just regroup, get back together, and let's have a bounce back year this season. Well, that has not happened, as they are currently 0-4, and this is about as bad as they have ever looked under Willie Green. And with the moves they've made, with the new team, they are just looking very badly. And there's already reports coming out that after this road trip, they are most likely going to fire Willie Green. And I mean, but hey, maybe he can somehow turn the season around on this road trip. We can go undefeated, and we can just put all this behind us. Surely nothing tragic and heartbreaking will happen, and say the fifth game against the Los Angeles Clippers or anything.
3 to shoot. Kawhi for the win. Damn!
And well, that happened. Okay, yep. Willie Green's gone. This is probably the best game we ever played this season, by the way. That buzzer beater loss you just witnessed, Kawhi Leonard ripped my heart out. That's the best game we played all year. And Willie Green honestly coached a pretty damn good game. He made adjustments to his rotation. I like what he did. And we still got shit on and lost. And we got our hearts ripped out. So if we're not getting belt to ass, we're getting our hearts ripped out. Now, yes, like I said, this game wasn't Willie Green's fault, but being 0-5 is very much his fault. As the first 4 games, he had a very not good rotation, and he actively lost us games. So yes, do I think this was his fault? No, but I do think a lot of these losses are his fault, the first 4 especially, and just really overall, not winning close games has been a huge problem throughout all of Willie Green's career. Not adjusting going into halftime has been a huge problem all of Willie Green's career, and third quarters have been his kryptonite, and just he hasn't adjusted in any way, shape, or form. His rotations or anything, his X and O's are miserable to watch, and I just think Willie Green, it's time to go. He served his purpose. He honestly was one of the better coaches the Pelicans have had, but at this point in time, I think it's over. The magic is out. I think the players are kind of giving up on him, and just overall, I think we got to move on from him. It hurts me to say it, but I think he's got to go. But now that I've talked about why I think Willie Green probably has ran his course in New Orleans, and I do think he deserves another chance on another team, I just think he is not going to be the coach here at this point. I think, like I said, he's gone stale, but I've talked enough about him. So why doesn't the team work? We can get why, okay, the coach isn't registering with the team, he's not motivating them anymore. We get that. But if your team was talented, like the Pelicans are, they have a lot of talent on the roster, why isn't the team working as a whole? Why aren't they good enough to win games in spite of Willie Green? Well, that is going to bring us to the next section of this video. So the first point I want to say is basically since we've added Zion Williamson to this roster, we have refused, and I mean impressively, decided to not put a floor spacing big man with Zion Williamson. Zion has been consistently, when he has played, one of, if not the best, lane finishers in the league. He lives in the paint, and he is dominant in the paint. You cannot stop him, no matter how many times he drives left, and only drives left. There has been no one who can consistently stop Zion from dominating in the paint. So you would think, as a GM, as a front office, you would want a center around Zion who wouldn't clog the paint every possession to make his life harder. Well, here are some of the names of every center he has played with. He has played with Jonas Valanciunas, who is his best floor spacing center. And then from there, he's played with Yves Missy, Kevon Looney, DeAndre Jordan, Derek Queen, Daniel Tice, Cody Zeller, Jackson Hayes, and Steven Adams. I should not have to tell you that almost none of those guys are floor spacing big men. At least Jonas is offensively talented and he can spread the floor a little bit. But the rest of those names on that roster cannot shoot worth a lick at all and have complimented Zion in zero way. So it's not like they haven't had opportunities to. They could have signed Jonas for $10 million a year instead of letting him walk for nothing. They easily could have drafted guys like Kyle Filikowski, Quentin Post, among a plethora of other big men they didn't draft. Like, those are just off the top of my head. And just with them never even getting anything remotely close to being described as a floor spacing big man, it has greatly hurt their best player. Now, Zion, in spite of this, due to how talented he is, has remained great. But imagine how good he would be if you didn't have the other team's center just camping in the paint waiting for him every possession because you had a floor-spacing big man that could actually draw the center out of the fucking paint. Yet, despite this, no one has even attempted yet this with Zion, and it is unbelievably frustrating as a Pelicans fan that they just refuse to address this, and they really double down on the same strategy. They've started with Steven Adams, but then they got Jonas, so it looked like they were moving in the right direction, but then they said, screw that, let Jonas walk, and then got Yves Missy. What do you mean? Like, dude, none of these guys fit with him at all. It makes zero sense. That's all I'm going to talk about on this topic, but Jesus Christ, it's annoying. And then my second biggest glaring issue with this team is that there is basically no leadership on this team. On Willie Green's best teams, they have edge, they play hard, they're gritty, grinding out games, they play super hard, and like they just have a chip on their shoulder. Like that year that we played the Phoenix Suns, that team had a chip on their shoulder. They fought every single night. They literally had a guy on the bench whose nickname was The Knife in Najee Marshall, okay? Like, that team was one of the most fun ones to ever watch. But the reason this team seems so stale is because they have zero leaders on this team. The only thing close to it is Jose Alvarado, who really doesn't get that big of a role. Yes, he's gotten bigger roles recently. Thank God Willie Green's finally starting to play him this year. But he hasn't played a big enough role to make a big impact on this year's team. And then you look at the other leaders we've let leave since that great year with when they made it to the Phoenix Suns in the playoffs. They've lost Najee Marshall. They lost Jonas. They lost CJ McCollum. Herb Jones doesn't speak at all. Jose Alvarado is still very good and is still a good leader. But he's, like I said, doesn't play enough for it to matter. But Najee Marshall and Jonas and CJ were huge pieces to this team, and as far as talking and leading them and being mature presences in the locker room, now of which they have none. Now, I'm not saying Zion isn't a mature presence, or I'm not saying that these other veterans on the team aren't good vets, but you don't have any vocal leaders like CJ McCollum was, like Jonas was. Like, you just don't have it anymore. Herb Jones is the quietest human you will ever see, and he's just not that type of dude. Zion's a quiet dude. He's not going to do it. Like, that's the big problem. You don't have any leaders on the team, and when you have that, you have no edge. When you have no edge, and your coach is a guy who's all about grit and grind and like play hard, play with a lot of heart, that just doesn't mesh well together at all, and that has been a gigantic problem for this team this year. And I mean, it's really all their fault. Like, they are the ones who let Najee walk. They let Jonas walk. They traded CJ for a Jordan Poole who has never been known for his leadership. Yes, Poole is talented and he's good, but he is far from a leader, okay? So I just think a lot of things have gone wrong, and this is a big part of why things have turned south so quickly. Because if you had these veteran presences like CJ or Jonas or Najee, they would be able to rally the troops. They would be able to circle the wagons. They'd be able to like really turn this thing around. But they don't have anyone in their locker room to do that for them, and it's just a huge problem on this roster. But now that I've went into depth, what's wrong with this roster? Why I think Willie Green's course and time is done in New Orleans? What is the future of this team? And it's not a good one, but let's just dive right into it. So going into this offseason, before this season, the Pelicans had 2 first-rounders in the 2026 draft, which is known as one of the most stacked classes we have seen in a very long time. Like, they are great. Well, in a stroke of genius out of Joe Dumars, or you could just call it a fucking stroke in general, he decided to not trade just one of those picks, but both of them, for Derek Queen. Now, look, I was already not a big Derek Queen fan. Like, I think he's an okay player. I don't think he fits with us, but I think he was going to be an okay player with whoever drafted him. But we traded 2 top 5 picks right now in the 2025 class for Derek Queen. Derek Queen could become an all-star this year, and he won't be worth it because of what we gave up for him. Now, look, the Indiana Pacers pick, in his defense of Joe Dumars, they traded it before Tyrese Halliburton got injured, but you would have been able to make the same trade if you would have just waited the week you had to wait for the season to be over. There was no reason to rush a trade and make a trade before the season ended. There was just no reason. You took a risk for 0 reason, and it bit you in the ass in the worst way humanly possible. And the reason I combine these two together is because that pick we traded for to get the 23rd overall pick, we then bundled it with our own unprotected 2026 first-round pick to move up and get Derek Queen. May I add, Derek Queen very easily could have been available still at the 23rd overall pick. It's not like you had to move up. Like, we just spasmed for some reason and did it. And then on top of that, you gave up an unprotected, your own 2026 pick after a year where you went 21-61. I should not have to explain to you why that is so terrible of a deal on your part. Right now, the Pelicans pick and the Indiana pick, they are 2 of the 3 winless teams in the NBA, and it sits at pick 2 and pick 3 in projections. Do you understand how bad that is? There is a very real chance this pick will turn into Darian Peterson, AJ Dibonessa, Boozer, any of these great players, or maybe 2 of those 3 great players. This draft class is a generational class, and the Pelicans would have had a chance to get 2 of the top 5 best players in this class. Now, yes, the Indiana pick was top 4 protected, but it's the draft lottery, and it very easily could have went to the 5th pick. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. So there is a real chance the Pelicans traded 2 top 5 picks for Derek fucking Queen. Like, I don't know if y'all understand, that is a franchise-alteringly bad move, and it shouldn't be a surprise because the same guy who drafted Draco Milicic over Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade is the one who made this trade. So we shouldn't be surprised it happened, yet we hired this guy and interviewed no other GM candidates. This is the only guy we interviewed, and it just makes no sense, and it is so frustrating because everything was there. All we had to do was not make any moves and we'd be in the exact same position we are in right now, but with a very bright future because we have 2 top 5 picks in the most stacked draft class. So even if we sucked right now and everything was the exact same, at least we would have a lot of hope going forward. But instead of that, Joe Dumars has ruined it, stepped on it, and burned the organization to the ground in about 4 fucking months since he's had the job, and it is unbelievable how unbelievably incompetent the New Orleans Pelicans are in every fucking facet of running a basketball team. I don't know what we did to deserve this. We get injured every year. We lose close games every year. We are cursed. Dyson Daniels was right. We are a cursed organization. My God, sell it to the Canes guy immediately, because what the fuck is this, Pelicans? It is so frustrating, and it is just unfortunate because we just did it to ourselves. Like, it's 100% our fault. It's not like anything out of our control is happening this year. No one forced us to make those trades, and we just did it ourselves because why not? Well, why not screw ourselves over for any reason possible? It's just so frustrating, very unfortunate, and that's about all I want to say for this video. So comment below, do you agree with me? Do you think the Pelicans are cursed? Do I have any reasons why we suck that I missed? What are your thoughts in the comment section below? If you like, point, like button, subscribe button, you mean that's a word to me, and I hope you have a blessed day, because I had a blessed day, so you need a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah.